Aloha to the lahui. Welcome back to Connect the Dots with Jenny. Today is the 34th day of the Diddy trial. The jury is in deliberation. And there was another note. There was a note that was sent out last night that they didn't answer yet. And that was in regards to drug distribution. The jurors had more questions in regards to what the drug distribution, a definition of the drug distribution. So the judge conferred with the prosecution and with the defense. And basically, the defense said, just answer yes, and read the instructions. And of course, Agnafilo said, I need to confer with my team. So now here we are today. Today, I'm going to read to you guys what the response is to the drug distribution charge, which they ended up, hold on, let me find it. I'm sorry. They ended up just reading what they said in the first place. Yeah. Judge says both sides agree to this definition without objection. So, it's because Diddy's team had an objection to it. So judge says, I am adopting the government's answer to the drug distribution question. Can we, and then Combs's lawyer, Driscoll, says, can we just put something on the record about sole possession? SOLE, sole possession. This definition of distribution would mislead the jury. Diddy's defense team, I feel, is very incompetent, actually. Judge says, hold on. Then the judge says, both sides agree to this definition without objection. So what is it? To which Driscoll says, 1 second. And then Comey from prosecution says, they are trying to mislead the jury. The judge says they have been specific in their question, and so this is the answer. To which Diddy's lawyer says, Your Honor, can you just mark our defense proposal as a court exhibit? And the judge says yes. So once again, Diddy's team is still doing the technicalities, the little legalities, whatever way they can kind of get an edge, they're trying to do it. Because from all the reports I read yesterday, Diddy's defense team is not looking good. Brian Steele, one of his lawyers, not looking good. Mark Agnifilo is not looking good yesterday in the court, pacing back and forth, not looking their normal, confident selves. Okay. I think that's really important. Good. I want them, squirming and not feeling confident. So today the jury sent another note. Let me see if we can find exactly what the note says. Okay. At 11:18, the judge says, we received a note from the jury asking for testimony of Cassandra Ventura as to the Intercontinental and the Cannes incidents and the Daniel Phillip Essex Hotel incident. Daniel Phillips' testimony on that as well. So they're asking for this information. They want to know, they want more clarity on her testimony with the Intercontinental Hotel. By the way, they did a lot of freak offs at the Intercontinental Hotel, so I don't know which one specifically. And then the Cannes incident, where she went to Cannes for a movie, and I think that's where he left her on the boat and he beat her on a yacht or a boat. And the Daniel Phillip Essex Hotel incident. So Daniel Phillip was a male escort that they used. Okay. And they want his testimony. So the prosecution, Maureen Comey, says that they have a disagreement, and the judge says, first, let me know if either side minds me bringing the jury out and speaking to them, to which both sides, prosecution and defense, is like, oh, there's no need for that. Agnifilo says, Mr. Combs, we and Mr. Combs don't see a need for that to happen. To which Johnson from the prosecution says, we have a disagreement about the redirect, about the Cannes incident and the events immediately following. The answer was to what happened when Sean was angry. So they're reading like little tidbits from that. It referred to the freak off that occurred upon landing in New York. Now you're going to make me go all the way back to during Cassie's testimony to go and find what she says. Hopefully I'll do it, actually. The judge says, I would likely cut it off sooner. To which Garagos, who is Diddy's lawyer, says, I have nothing to add. Prosecution says, we may need to speak with the court about the Intercontinental. So that was at 11:18. At 11:58, the judge comes back out and says, I understand there's an issue to resolve. To which Comey says, I understand that during the break, the defense came up with an issue about Daniel Phillip. Combs's Xavier Donaldson, who is Diddy's lawyer. The U.S. wants one more question and answer in than we do. It's his later thoughts. Prosecution says the answer is about the Essex Hotel incident. On the Intercontinental Hotel incident, we think it's the day of and after, not the days before. That is our position. And the defense, Diddy's team, wants to include Miss Ventura's IG post of 2024. So they want to include one of Cassie's posts in which she talks about domestic violence. And they want that because they're painting this whole picture to just be domestic violence. They are painting Diddy's whole trial to be his personal life. That his personal life, he's a swinger. He just likes to watch his women have sex with male escorts. And all of this is just domestic violence dispute. This is not RICO. This is not sex trafficking. This is not prostitution. This is just a man's personal sexual preferences. Get the hell out of here. Blah, blah, blah. The prosecution says we'd like to include the photos that she took of her injuries and the message from March 5th. The judge says, Garagos, don't those fall into the same category? What would be the objection? And Garagos maintains that they want to object to the photos. I don't know why they want to object to the photos. They've already seen the photos. The jury has already seen all of this stuff. To which the prosecution says, we don't think her testimony about her Instagram post is relevant. We think it's confusing. To which the judge says it can be included. Both sides have reviewed and will proceed on this basis. Ooh, so actually, I think the prosecution lost on that one. So the judge has ruled that they are going to allow Cassie's Instagram posts that this was domestic violence, where she speaks about domestic violence. To be honest, I don't think that's really going to weigh in because there's also so many other testimonies, not just this little one about, I don't think the weight of her IG post of her calling it domestic violence really matters, in my personal opinion. If that's the one thing that's going to break the camel's back out of everything that you have seen and heard from Cassie's testimony, I'd really question the jurors. Once again, we don't have a verdict on this trial yet. I don't foresee it happening anytime sooner than Thursday. People are, some people are, guessing that they'll have a verdict come today, tomorrow. I don't think so. I think the jury is deliberating properly. I think they're just going through. I think they understand the weight of what they have, that they understand that Diddy's life, this man's life, is in their hands, which I think is a good thing for the justice system. Regardless of the fact that I don't like Diddy, regardless of the fact that I think he's guilty, I still want us to have a proper justice system that is fair and true. And so I do appreciate the fact that the jurors are taking this seriously. It sounds to me, the more I read and listen about juror number 25 yesterday, it sounds to me like juror number 25 already had his mind made up. And after reading about him, he's with Mary, and I think he was in there like, nope, I'm done. This is it. This man is guilty. This is what I believe. Well, meanwhile, all the other jurors was like, I don't know. Let's look at more evidence. And he was just like, no, I already know. This is my interpretation of what I've read, because he said that he enjoys watching NPR and documentaries about climate change, and his partner, who is a man, is a graphic designer. That's where I got Mary from. He's with Mary. If you're from Hawaii and you're watching me, you'll totally understand the reference. If you're not from Maui, then you kind of don't understand the reference. But anyways, I think he just had his mind made up. And then the other jurors are like, hey, listen, like, let's do our due diligence. Let's actually look at everything and let's really make sure that we're deciding. So I also got today the actual form of what they have to be finding him guilty of. So it says right here, it's a verdict sheet. Okay. And it says, it says count 1, racketeering conspiracy. How do you find the defendant? Guilty, not guilty. Here, let me see if I can show it to you guys. I know it's going to be backwards. Sorry. This is the sheet. I have all my stuff in the way. Okay. So that's what the sheet looks like. Racketeering conspiracy is the first one. Guilty, not guilty. And then under that, oh, that's what it is. That's the predicate acts, you guys. Under that, they need to find two predicate acts. It says, if and only if you find the defendant guilty of count number one, what type of racketeering acts do you unanimously find were involved in the offense? And then it has acts involving kidnapping, not proved or proved. Acts involving arson, not proved or proved. Acts involving bribery, not proved or proved. Guarantee, bribery, proved. Acts involving witness tampering, not proved or proved. I think that one the jury could be like, I don't really know with the witness tampering. I think it was proved. Acts involving forced labor, not proved or proved. And that was with Mia. Mia proved it with the fact that Diddy kept her awake for 5 days. 5 days. All right, next one. Acts involving sex trafficking, not proved or proved. Proved. It's funny because I got this sheet from one person who filled out all the paperwork and they put not proved. But they put proved for arson, which arson wasn't proved actually, because it was literally said, Kid Cudi said on the stand that when he never even got a police report back, but when they did, they found that it was a woman's DNA that was at his car. And so like Diddy really couldn't be, but Kid Cudi says, I believe it was Diddy, but that's not proof. So I think it's silly that this person marked that he proved arson. And then they marked that they didn't prove forced labor. Okay, I'm not even gonna pay attention to what this person wrote because, in my opinion, I think they're dumb. Okay, acts involving transportation for purposes of prostitution, proved or not proved? Proved, 100% proved. Receipts of flying these people all across the country to have SEX with Jane Doe. Receipts. There's receipts, proved. And then the last one is acts involving drug distribution. Proved. Proved. Because the fact is, what the law says in layman's terms is basically as long as you had it and you dispersed it. It doesn't matter if you bought it. It doesn't matter if you bought it with the intention to disperse it. It just matters that you actually, I think it literally is intention to disperse, but you had it and you gave it an amount, and it does not require an amount. The amount can be little, the amount can be big, but that was proved. Okay, next one. If and only if you find the defendant guilty of count one, did the pattern of racketeering activity include sex trafficking of Cassandra Ventura? Yes or no? Because it's interesting the way they have these charges laid out. It has to meet, that's the predicate acts. It has to meet all the predicate acts in order for it to be a guilty verdict on RICO. I'm going to do a separate video just on this. I believe it's yes. Well, I could see the jury saying no for Cassandra. Then they ask the same question. If and only if you found the defendant guilty of count one, did the pattern of racketeering activity include sex trafficking of Jane? I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes is because there is this instance where she told him she didn't want to do it specifically. And she said, okay, I will come visit you. She said, I'm not going to come visit you if that's what we're going to be doing. And he said, no, baby girl, no, that's not what's going to happen. So she gets on a plane, and literally as she lands, come to find out, oh, hey, by the way, I called these male escorts. They're going to be there. Be ready to perform for daddy with your baby oil. Gross. And she was just like, that is not what I agreed to. She did it, but that to me, yes, that's an automatic yes. Then we have count number 2, sex trafficking of Cassandra Ventura. How do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty of sex trafficking of Cassandra? The thing about Cassie is, I know there were times where she didn't want to do it. And she was, actually, I want to say there was a time where she was dragged to do one. She was dragged to do one. And there's a time, remember, when she was sick. I need to go back and read the testimony. All right, next one, count number 3. How do you find the defendant It's the Mann Act transportation of Cassandra Ventura. Okay, how do you find the defendant? So this is transportation of Cassie, guilty or not guilty. Count number 4 for sex trafficking of Jane. How do you find the defendant? Guilty or not guilty? I'd say guilty. And then finally, count number 5, Mann Act transportation. Oh, okay. So count 4 was, do you find him guilty of sex trafficking Jane? Yes. Automatically, I'd say yes. Count 5, the transportation of Jane. Absolutely yes. How do you find the guilty and guilt? How do you find the defendant guilty or not guilty? I'd say absolutely yes. And then it has to be signed and dated by the 4-person. If you don't know, the 4-person is juror number 5. That is basically the lead, the manager, the head, that they all elect to be the person who is a contact between the court and the jurors. So that is also the person who's writing the notes and sending out to the judge. And then when needed, the defense and the prosecution are meeting and deciding together as to what kind of answer. So that is a really important piece of paper that I found, which I'm super stoked about. Anyways, I'm going to keep you guys updated on everything. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to keep you guys updated on factual news that is happening in the Diddy trial. I am getting all of this news from Inner City Press. He is on X, the old Twitter. Follow him. He's in the courtroom and he's transcribing everything day by day. He is transcribing all the testimony verbatim. Sorry, I have bad allergies and I forgot to take my allergy medicine this morning and my nose is so itchy and I have a pimple and so it's hard to just, anyways, as if you needed to know that. Anyways, go and follow Matthew Lee Russell. He is Inner City Press. He is an investigative, independent journalist. I love his page. He provides facts. None of this bullshit, clickbait. TMZ, don't trust them because TMZ, Harvey is actually partnered with, is it Garagos or Agnifilo? One of Diddy's lawyers. And so like TMZ has been dropping all this news because they literally are getting fed information from the defense, Diddy's defense. So I think they're totally compromised. They're totally biased. I don't buy into the bullshit. I only like facts, straight facts. Follow Matthew Lee Russell, Inner City Press on X. And tune in next time. I'll be putting out a video later on today. We're going to catch you guys up on all the Diddy trial news. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Aloha.